It's 10 o'clock. Hey. Welcome. Thank you for being here. Do we have any first timers? Anybody brand new? We have a few back there. Welcome, welcome. Thank you. I'm Katherine Ambrose, and obviously this is Empowered Senior. We are working on turning Empowered Senior to a nonprofit so that we can do more and more in the community. In fact, we're already registered with the state as a nonprofit. So we're making progress all the time. We have a lot of things going on. And today, we're going to talk about the psychology of downsizing and decluttering. So I heard from a senior the other day that couldn't come today. She said, but I've been to that one. Well, I just want you to know that we have common themes that every time we put on a seminar, it is something new. Today, we're talking more about the psychology behind it all, because a lot of times, years are spent feeling stuck. Does anybody feel stuck or wondering when I should do it? So that's what we're going to talk about. I just got back into town yesterday. I was in Chicago the last few days because we're going to go get my mom. She lives in Chicago, and she has decided to move back to Wichita, Kansas. She moved away in 1988, so she's been gone for like 33 years. So it's a big move. She's been widowed almost 7 years. So what has she been thinking about for 7 years? What should I do next? What should I do with the house? She doesn't have central air. She has a really nice house, no central air. Dad thought that was a waste of money. It's Chicago, but you know what? Actually, it was hot this weekend, surprisingly enough. It was hot. And more today, people that live in the area will say, what? She doesn't have central air? I think 33 years ago, we got less of a reaction when we mentioned that mom and dad didn't have central air. So she's kind of been suffering every summer in dealing with like portable air conditioners. And she's gotten bids a couple times to put central air in, but she lives on a slab, and so they're going to have to run it through the attic. It's going to be very expensive. There's other things that she wanted to do to the house. She's got one bathroom, and when they remodeled, Dad thought it would be a good idea to have two separate vanities rather than like the normal, long vanity with two sinks. And so she thought, should I do that? So there's just all kinds of things about her house that she's wondered about doing. And it all is working out because she's just going to just sell it as is pretty much and move down here. It was kind of a shock to us because I've talked over the years about, you could always move to Wichita, where we are, where your sister is, where you may still have some friends here, where some of your friends can visit. And the last few weeks before her announcement, she'd been talking a little bit more about different thoughts. And I said, well, have you thought about what you're going to do? She said, well, I'm moving to Wichita. And that was a surprise. So anyway, she decided. So sometimes it's a lot of thinking, and then all of a sudden a decision is made. And when a decision gets made, a lot of things happen very quickly. So I went to work trying to find her a place to live. And she thought she'd like to rent instead of buy because she can't come here and shop for it first. She's got to sell her house. So I think I found her like the only rental I would have possibly wanted for her to have. It's within 2 miles of her house. And it is a miracle, I'm telling you, that she got it because it's in the villas at Hampton Lakes. Is anyone familiar with the villas at Hampton Lakes and Mace? They're beautiful. And they're building brand new ones. They stay very full. They have a waiting list. And there was a beautiful vacant unit that backed up to a little pond, brand new, never been lived in. And it was available. And I thought, it just can't be. I know when we check on this, it's not going to be available. The lady that works out there has a broken leg. She's in rehab. And I worked for several days trying to get a hold of somebody. By the time I got a hold of someone, guess what they told me? I rented it yesterday. Of course she did. So I called Mom, and because I thought being in real estate, I thought maybe something might fall through. Probably not, but maybe. I'm like, Mom, fill out the application, quick, fill it out. And so she started filling it out, and she called. She goes, I just don't know. They want all my bank information. Mom, hurry, fill it out. So I talked her through it, and she got her application in. And guess what? The other people that turned their application in, they had put an offer in on a house. They didn't think they were going to get it, and they were renting this. They thought as their backup option, and they didn't actually get it. So they didn't turn her app in. Her app was there. We got it. I cannot believe it. They have 2 other units that they're building. Those are pre-leased. You can't move into them until the middle of August. They already are pre-leased. Anyone else that wants to live in there has to wait 6 to 7 months to have one. So I said, your lease is going to start June 1st, like a week ago. She's like, oh my gosh, that's so fast. Like, well, if I could have got one for mid-August, I would, but there's just nothing. And so, man, did it go fast. So Samantha from our team is going to Chicago today. She's getting on an airplane right after to help her move. So if you need us to go get anybody and move them back to Wichita, we can do that. I want to thank our sponsors in the room. They are how this is able to happen. We just squeak by. My husband and I just squeak by making this happen. That's why we're trying to turn it into a nonprofit. Some of these are sponsors from last year that because of COVID, we're giving them this year. Some are TV sponsors, and then a few of them are new sponsors this year, and they are helping us offset our expenses for this room. We pay for this room, and it includes free admission to the Botanica, so I always get real excited if I see you go outside to enjoy the gardens. So we want you to make the most of it. So we have Brian Spear with Kansas Home Health and Hospice. We have my friend Pam Crawford, our newest sponsor, Providence Home Health and Hospice. We have Felicia with Legacy Legal. She's an attorney that can help with all of your legal questions. Candle Club is in the house. She may have just stepped out. Oh, there she is. Seated. Plus sponsors, we don't want you to stand. You can kind of sit at the tables, please. The Candle Club is a phenomenal sponsor for us. They sponsor the television show. Thank you for being here. Who's been to Candle Club before? And who's members of Candle Club? Who doesn't know what that is? Okay, good. All right, who has heard of Candle Club and really know too much about it? It's kind of mysterious. All right, so we belong to Candle Club. It's very inexpensive to join, and it's like a private restaurant that you can go to, and the food is delicious. They've got live music and activities all the time, and so you can go back there and get information. We have my friend Cherie, and she is with American Senior Benefits. She's the first person I told that we were going to do this venture. So, and Cherie, thank you very much. So what they do is they help people with insurance questions, Medicare, and just knowing all your options and your prescriptions and all of that. So you do a lot of work, and it's just included at no charge. You get free consultations. All right, so please thank them. We would really appreciate it. So I'm Katherine Ambrose. I want to thank you. Do we have a veteran in here that can lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Ryan, could you? Thank you. Thank you. Veterans, please stand. And veterans, thank you for your service. We have Don coming up. Thank you so much, Don.
Good morning.
Good morning.
For the country we love, we pledge our allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Dean, it's hard for me to think at the same time. Okay, my husband Randy and I are longtime realtors. I've been a realtor my whole entire life, practically before I was even an adult. And we have helped a lot of seniors move over the years, but guess what? We didn't know how hard it was. I thought I was doing a really good job. Like, I'm such a good realtor if I wrote down when the estate sale was. I had no idea. It seemed like a lot of work. And a lot of times there would be questions about where people are moving and Medicare. I didn't know any of that stuff. And let me tell you, when I started studying this, like 3 decades later, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so complicated. There's a lot of it still that I just have to see, Felicia, help me with this, or Cherie, because it is complex. And so that's why we started these seminars, so that we could help older, mature adults and their adult kids figure out how to navigate through some of these things. I'm a certified senior downsizing coach. I'm the only one in Kansas. And that's what our team is based on, is helping seniors with these transitional moves. It's way different than what a real estate agent would normally do. We go way beyond that. In this room, we have people in different stages. We have people that have already downsized. Have you already downsized? We have people that are going to stay in their home forever. Are you going to stay in your home forever? Okay. 80% want to stay in the home as long as they can. We have people in the thinking stage. They're gathering information. You all are gathering information, where you're here just to be among peers. The gathering information is where it starts. Thinking, planning. You start purging more. Maybe you start interviewing professionals that can help you. Maybe you get more serious about touring places that you might be able to do. Actions, when you really start interviewing and hiring the people that can help you, where you sign that lease, you fill out that application, you book your estate sale. That's one of the huge challenges, because a lot kind of revolves around when the estate sale people can help if you're going to do an estate sale. We're going to talk about all of these things today. The psychology of this has been around since the beginning of the world, I'm sure. Accumulating possessions. It's mentioned in the Bible several times. In fact, here's one quote: that godliness with contentment is great gain, for we brought nothing into the world, and we can take nothing out of it. But if we have food and clothing, we will be content with that. What else do we need? Shelter. So we need shelter. And if we could just be content, that would be okay, but we're not. We want stuff. And then we have stuff that we don't want to let go of. We have 7 living generations on the planet today. And this is what that looks like. The greatest generation, the silent generation, the baby boomers, but we have a lot of boomers in here. The baby boomers are kind of almost divided into the older boomers and the younger boomers, kind of 2 different groups. Gen X, millennials, Gen Z, and Gen Alpha. And we're all going to have to contend with accumulation of stuff. All the different generations have different ideas. And there's a lot of emotion between the generations too. We maybe have hopes and dreams that we're going to pass some things on and that they're going to be treasured. I was just talking to my daughter-in-law about my mother's move. She took a whole bunch of dolls that my mom's collected. My mom was going to sell all of these dolls for years, and she did sell a bunch of them, but she still had a lot left over. My daughter is afraid of dolls. Do you have kids or grandkids that are afraid of dolls? Realtors know that this is true. That a couple of these generations, you show them through the house, you're just walking along, and all of a sudden they go, woo, because they've come across the doll collection. My mom thinks that is ridiculous. It doesn't matter, because my daughter and one of our cousins, there's no way they want to sleep in a room where there's dolls, or own dolls. My daughter-in-law, I said, you know, Mom would give you these dolls and you can sell them, and she's pretty good at selling stuff, and keep the money. That was a pretty good offer. So my son said no, but he let his wife decide, and so we brought the stuff over there, and she started going through. She loves the dolls, and so now my son's gonna have to build shelves for the dolls. For my granddaughter, so that makes my mom really happy. But my mom had got to the point where she didn't really care. She's like, let it go, because the decision's been made. My daughter-in-law said a few years ago, when my grandpa died, I should have taken some of the train sets, the old vintage train set stuff at the soccer, but she didn't think that they had room for it. And there were other things that she could have had. Her mom has had cancer, still does, and she was pregnant. They had so much going on, they just said no to everything. Now she regrets that. So sometimes the kids and grandkids are gonna say no, and they might regret it later. So we can do the best that we can to have different conversations with them, or approach them in different ways, or figure out ways that we might be able to hang on to something very, very special. But if they say no, then we probably just need to release some of it out to the universe. Somebody's gonna treasure the things that you treasure. And I hope that provides some comfort. All right, so the pattern of accumulation, this is how it got started. When you maybe first move out of your parents' home, you don't have anything. In fact, your parents might say, really, you don't have anything because it all belongs to us. Here's your clothes. Maybe they'll give you the bed, but you know, as a kid, you kind of start out with nothing. And then you start adding the necessities, the things that you have in your apartment or your first home. And then eventually they require nice things. Sometimes it's flip-flopped. You know, sometimes young adults, they get the nice things and they don't have the necessities. Have you ever noticed that? They can always run to McDonald's. They don't need a colander. I have everything I could want. Does everyone in this room pretty much have everything that they could want? Some of us would always want something, right? There's something on Amazon that we might want to order. There's something we might want to get. But pretty much we have everything that we really need. And we get to the point where I don't need everything I have. How many colanders can we really use? I don't need everything I have. Then it goes to, I need to get rid of some of these things because the cabinets are stuffed full. We're talking about my house. I don't need all the cornware I have. I don't use it all. Do I do anything about that? Not yet. Eventually it can turn into I can no longer care for all my things. That's always sad when we go visit homes and people say, oh, it makes me a little sad on home driveway because I can't keep the yard up the way I used to. Our siding doesn't look the way it always used to. And sometimes we just can't take care of everything over time. And then it can get to, I must let go of things I no longer need. My mom must get rid of the things that she no longer needs or truly loves. Why? She's moving, and she's going to pay for a moving truck, boxes, paper, all kinds of stuff, help to pay to move all this stuff. Then it's going to come to her new place, and luckily she's getting to her garage. One side is going to be boxes of stuff because she has more collectibles to sell later, Lori. And there's going to be boxes to go through, but she's getting rid of a lot, so I do think it will fit in the one-car garage. But she's got to let stuff go, because some of this stuff is going to cost more to move. I mean, it just is going to cost more to move. My daughter was Tinkerbell at Disney World, and she bought herself a wonderful queen-size bed there. And when she moved back to Wichita, they had it shipped on a train here because she loved it that much. I'm telling you, it would have been cheaper to come here and buy a new bed. But that was her bed. She loved it. So now she has her Wichita bed and her Florida bed, 2 great beds, and a lot of money invested. But things cost. It costs to move things. It costs to store things. There's also an emotional cost of having too much stuff, because it can be very depressing. It can be dangerous. You have too much stuff, tripping over. That mostly I just think that it really can put a cloud over your life when you're thinking about all this stuff. And I gotta do something about this stuff. I'm thinking about it right now. I'm thinking about all that morning that I don't need. And all kinds of other stuff. And then it can get to the point where others will deal with my things. You know, people of any age can pass, and their home has to be gone through by someone. It has to be emptied out by someone. Stuff has to be dealt with by someone. And that's just the way it is. And there's a lot of older, mature adults that will say, I don't worry about that because my kids are going to take care of it. In fact, I know a distant relative, a cousin, related to Randy. One of the relatives told her, if you don't deal with some of this, then your boys are going to fight after you're gone. And she said, I want them to fight. And she means it. So I talk a lot about being a good parent. You know, when we're in our 20s and 30s, we want to be a good parent, usually, we hope, right? And we're trying to learn how to be a good parent. And then you're trying to be a good parent all your life. Parenting as the kids get older and mature and get married and then have kids of their own. And I say, let's be a good parent into our 70s, 80s, and 90s to the best of our ability. And leaving stuff for people to fight over or leaving stuff for someone to have a stroke over is not cool. Because 50-year-old, 60-year-old kids have heart attacks and strokes all the time when they're dealing with these estate properties. And so it's just not that easy to say somebody else can deal with it. Pattern of accumulation. All right, so our stuff means something emotionally. It means something about our personalities, our projected self-image, our hobbies, values, and circumstances. So to go a little deeper into that. When we're first getting started, your stuff is about who we're becoming and who we want to be. Okay, so maybe it's important to your daughter-in-law to buy purple appliances for her kitchen because she loves purple. So that's about her and what she wants. Don't buy her a blue toaster. And then your stuff becomes more about who we are. This is who we are. And later, this is who we were. I came across a little jumper that my son had when he was little. I set it on a hope chest. It's still sitting there because it means something to me. It's sad to think about when I used to have small kids. And would anybody else wear this? So I've had 30 years. Your stuff reflects personalities, the things that you like, and just what you believe about yourself, your values. Like if you have maybe religious things around, or you have golf items around, stuff about the shoppers, whatever it might be, that's what you value and love. And over time, also it can reflect circumstances. When the walkers come in, you know, someone can walk into the house and make some assumptions about someone's personalities, their likes and dislikes, and maybe they see a hospital bed. And so it also reflects the circumstances. What percent all this will be yours? Great. What's that kid thinking? What's that late 40s, 50-year-old plus kid thinking?
Gee, thanks.
Yeah, that's exactly what they're thinking. What else are they thinking? Oh my gosh. What are they hoping? They're hoping it disappears. They don't leave the garage door open. They're like, oh my gosh. Now, is Dad going to be able to do much about that stuff now? Probably not. You can maybe hire someone, but I mean, that's a big task. Now, if he had a move management team that comes in and helps them go through everything and kind of emotionally coaches them through all the decision making and helps kind of be an intermediary between the other family members, maybe. But a lot of times at this point, It's the son that's gonna handle that. That's right, Monday son, all this will be yours. How fast how fast will that son get rid of that stuff? Really fast, or pull up a dumpster, that stuff could be gone in a few days. Or sometimes we have clients that are depressed. They have their own issues and their own issues. And so they think they're gonna come back and forth and they're gonna take care of all of this stuff, and it goes on for years. So we have one right now where the son in Florida is ready to write a check, take care of it. His sister wants to take care of everything herself. And I don't know how long it will take. So this is what makes it so hard. The emotion, the sentimentality, the utility and practicality, like these are really good tools. Well, boys might not be ready for tools, or somebody might not be ready for tools. Do you want to pay for storage for the tools? Or do you want to take tools, does your friend want to take tools to a place where he doesn't have a garage and pay for storage? How much something costs. I paid this much for the dining table and buffet, so I don't want to lose money. But you're going to lose money if you move it. And people just don't really have a lot of formal dining room anymore. Sometimes if people have heirloom furniture, they will buy a home to accommodate it, but a lot of times they just can't afford that extra square footage. It's really shocking for us to show you how much that extra room costs when you're shopping for a house. It's a lot of money to store great grandma's table and buffet, especially if you aren't using it all the time or you love it that much. There's money attached to all the stuff. Identity and image, and estate and legacy. Like I want to leave this to someone. So it's all very complicated and emotional. You have to be patient. All right. There we go. Did I miss one? Okay. So David Soley is an author of a book, How to Stay Up to Seniors. It's really written for the adult kids, but we find that it's a helpful book for the older mature adults to read, to explains a couple things. And if you've been coming, you've heard me talk about this before because it's so important. There are life tasks that we're going through at all ages. And it used to be that no one paid any attention to us once we hit 50, like we're done. We have gone through all the developmental stages, and now we're just like on cruise control. No, the universe still has things for you to accomplish, and struggles, and I see my whole slide. So number one is maintaining control in a world where all control is being lost. So the son says, Dad, you got to empty out this garage. Dad might say, no, I'm keeping all of this stuff. There's good stuff in here, and I want you to go through it because you're going to find out that I have good stuff. Or I just don't want to be bossed around. Who wants to be bossed around? So the kids can't tell you what to do unless something happens to where they have to take control. But people want to have control throughout their life, be in charge of their own life. And there's a lot of losses. As parents get older, there's more and more losses. Maybe we're not driving at night. Maybe we don't hear something. Maybe we're getting some pressure to make a move, or feeling pressure that maybe I should move. And there's a lot of losses, so you want to control some of the things that you can, and it might be that I'm keeping that no matter what, and you can't make me get rid of it. So that's a way of maintaining control. And then leaving a legacy in the world where time is running short. So thinking about the things that meant a lot, like maybe Grandpa's train set. He would have loved for one of his little great grandchildren to get a train, but it just didn't work out that way. But these are phase of life tasks that we're dealing with. As long as we're here and thinking clearly, this is what we're dealing with. So we start running through all these things in our mind all the time. It's all emotion. Yes.
On that second one there, the legacy, I was thinking back a few minutes ago when you had all the generations.
Yes.
The first two, the greatest generation, the silent 27 years. And then the last one, out, was only 10 years. Things are moving so fast in spite of ourselves. You know, just recently, our daughter pointing out some things that we think that she would just love to have. And I noticed, like probably most of you, when you talk to the kids, her eyes started rolling. and you know, what's important to us is not important to them because their world is moving faster and faster than ours is. We can't keep up. We can't keep up. The technology and everything is just getting out of hand.
There's a lot of things getting out of hand these days, and things are moving fast. And a lot of younger generations, they're very mobile. Well, remember, they already bought all those purple appliances, so they don't need any more small appliances in the kitchen. You know, they've started getting their own stuff that reflects their values and their personalities and their self-images, and they just don't probably need more stuff. And they're being preached to all the time about being minimalist. You know, you turn on HGTV and it's all about redoing things and new and not very much, clutter-free. My mom has 2 desks, and Donna and Samantha all the time, they're trying to help people go from 3 file cabinets to 1 file cabinet. From 3 desks or more, 2 desks to 1 desk. So I said, these are both really nice desks. Neither one's very big. Which one do you want? She said, well, I think I'll keep my mother's desk because it means more to me and it's more practical, it has more drawers. Well, if we're really doing technology, we really don't need a lot of drawers because a lot of it is digital. And then she has another desk that doesn't need as much to her. It's smaller, beautiful, very intricate. My dad picked it up somewhere. So darling. So I think my daughter is interested in it, maybe. What does she want to do to it as soon as she gets it? Paint it. And inside, I'm going, we're like, oh yeah, Dad just picked it up somewhere. There's no emotional attachment. But I think this is gorgeous. And she's going to paint it, and then she's going to put brass knobs on it. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, all right. Sounds like a good idea. Mom would love you to have that desk. Someday we'll talk about natural behavior styles. My behavior style is very fast moving, high D, high I, and I'll push the button too many times. I'll give it to D. We're a good balance. She balances me out. All right.
I don't know.
I guess I can talk without slides.
That's fine.
There.
Here we go.
Oh, it's
Oh,
backwards.
forward. Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
Have you ever had any challenges in your family where people got really heated over stuff? Or have you ever been surprised at what stuff somebody wanted? Maybe you don't have to point it anywhere. It's maybe something happened to it when I dropped it.
Maybe I need new batteries.
I don't know. You might just adjust the batteries. Sometimes if you ask your kids or grandkids what they want, given the time limit, like we need to know by tomorrow at 5. We're not trying to be morbid, but we're trying to make some decisions. We're just curious. Or you can say, this is part of my homework. And so we'd like to know. And I bet you'll be surprised what they'll ask you for. They might ask you for recipes. They might ask you for things that you don't see having a lot of intrinsic value, but to them it really means a lot. Thank you. Oh,
Oh, shucks. Yes.
oh, thank you. Oh, they're doing it for us.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Go
Next
for it.
slide, please.
Thank you.
It takes a village, I'm telling you. I can have all these great ideas, but I can't do anything without all these people helping me. That's why Sam's going to Chicago to help my mom move. My mom would not want me helping her, I can tell you that. All right, it's sad. There's a lot of grief involved in these changes. That's why I don't want to do something with that cute little baby jar. Because you're saying goodbye to a part of your life that you enjoy, that you created. Reducing the number of decisions which must be made. That's one thing that could be very helpful going through this process. Limiting the amount of effort required on non-essential tasks, because like if you have a lot of collectibles, you might think about how often you have to dust all that stuff. Maybe you can move the stuff to dust the shelf. It creates work having stuff, or it creates the knowledge that I have a lot of work to do someday when I quit procrastinating. Physical cognitive abilities, of course, as we age, we do want to take away some of those non-essential tasks. Simplifying our lives. Our logo is all about getting out of overwhelm and just simplifying and being happier. And then facing our own, that probably means mortality. So anyway, there's a lot attached to that. Can we go to the next slide? Yes.
I also think, speaking this to Dawn's point about, his children maybe rolling their eyes with that, I'm dealing with that with my parents right now at this point in their lives. They're trying to downsize and figure out what they need to do. And it's not so much that I don't want the things that they have, it's that it hurts me when they have discussions about them making my life. And it's hard for me to imagine a life without my parents. And so I don't want to have those discussions, because if I push it away, then it's not going to happen. As an attorney and someone that deals with guardianship and conservatorship and things like that, I know it's something that I do have to face, but it doesn't make it any easier. So maybe like Dawn Child, when they roll their eyes, it's not so much that they're not excited or happy with things, it's that hard for us to say, this our parents aren't going to be there. You are everything to us in this world, and that's why.
Thank you, good point.
That is a really good point. And I was just thinking how interesting coming from an attorney, because my husband and I the last few days been going with my mom interviewing for real estate agents. And I'm like, oh my gosh, no wonder it's so hard for people. Only one is a downsizing coach and has the experience to help people through this. I mean, it's really challenging. But for an attorney that deals with these issues every day with other families, it's very hard. And so we're experiencing the same thing in being a care partner with his mother and acquiring my mom from Chicago and everything. It's really hard. So sometimes you might not want to talk about things because it's hard. And sometimes you're ready to talk about things and the kids aren't, because they're so scared and they don't want, they might think, oh mom, they say this, you're gonna live forever. Or mom, don't talk that way, I don't want to hear that. And so in Downsizers Club that we are developing now, and in other seminars, we talk about that, how you break through communication with the adult kids and grandkids, because it is very painful.
And I do think it's still important, just maybe over time, give them some time to get used to it. If we now have those conversations, I can do it. I don't cry anymore.
Well, that's really good. And so one of the things is that she knows, because she's an attorney, that it's important to have these conversations. Some of your kids and grandkids haven't been exposed to this stuff, and so they're working completely out of their heart. And so they might not understand the consequences of not talking about it now. And they might not understand how they're not helping by having that conversation, because it's a way for us to process when our kids will talk to us about things. All right, so this is grief and hassle. So at first, we don't have anything, and so we're not worried about stuff. College, we start accumulating some things maybe that we take with us. Marriage, you get things from your wedding. Middle age, oh my gosh, now you got a lot of stuff. The stuff is all the way up to the top. Empty nest, now you for sure have more stuff than what you need, and you're also a storage facility. You have your stuff and their stuff. First downsize move, you have a lot of stuff, because next week if you're going on the patio tours with us, you're going to see you really don't have to get rid of any stuff to move into one of these places, because they're good size and they have a lot of storage, and you don't have to downsize or get rid of too much, although we hope that you might thin things out. And then downsizing the second time, you get rid of more stuff, hopefully. And so that first downsizing move, you're under minimal stress or maybe mild stress. Second move, a little more moderate to major stress. And then at the end, there could be a lot of stuff to deal with. A lot of homes that we work on, all the stuff is still there. And somebody's got to deal with it. So I think that was kind of an interesting chart. Okay, next slide. Emotional attachment to a lot of these things. Pianos, we can hardly give them away. We've got good resources, but the piano that you learn to play on or that you wish your kids would learn to play on, that's a hard thing to give up. A lot of times it represents payments that were made, a lot of money that was spent, maybe arguments had with the spouse over acquiring that piano, taking care of that piano. Books, those of us that collect books, they mean something. It was something that we wanted to learn, something that we wanted to do, something that meant something to us. Photos, vacation albums, clothing and shoes. Who has clothes still from the 80s in a closet somewhere? Or before the 80s? Clothes that don't fit, and then probably will never fit.
I'm going to lose weight.
I'm gonna lose weight. Tools. All right. Can't get rid of the tools. Okay, so why? Seriously, this is serious. I may need it tomorrow. What if my daughter needs something? I need to go over there and help her with the plumbing or help fix her car. And the dads are the caretakers of the world. And that's one of the hardest things for downsizers, is giving up the tools. So a lot of times the women make the decision to downsize because she wants to get it done, and she wants to do it together. When it's the husband that wants to do it, it's usually because her physical or cognitive condition warrants it, and he's doing it to protect her. And if that's not the case, and she can't twist his arm, that's one of the things that often holds it back, because men can be the men that fix stuff, not every man does. The men that like to fix stuff, they've accumulated these things and they've got the best stuff. And so the tools are a biggie. By the way, tools sell really well in estate sales. That's one of the best things to have in estate sale. Large appliances can be a biggie. My mom has a fridge she's still paying on. It's really nice. It's way nicer than what's in her patio home. So we were texting back and forth to see if this fridge will fit. It will, so we're bringing it. One of the realtors said, oh, you can't take that, or if you do, you need to replace it. And don't replace it with something cheap. What is he thinking about? He's thinking about resale, but he's thinking about his perspective as someone that likes everything totally done and investment. Like he was talking to her about adding a wall, painting the ceilings, painting the walls, replacing the vanity in the kitchen, replacing the counter in the kitchen with granite. You would have to replace the backsplash. That wasn't mentioned, but that would have to be done. She has old white square tiles. The stove sits all by itself on the wall, and the downsizing realtor said, well, that doesn't make any sense if someone's going to reconfigure that kitchen. Bingo, you're absolutely right. Especially in today's market, you can make as much money selling your house as is in most cases as fixing things up. If you have like two no-brainer simple things to do, maybe you do it. But if you've got all kinds of things, then it's probably not worth it. And remember, the younger generations, what are they watching? HGTV. For most of our career, people wanted a home that's totally move and ready, and they want to move their stuff in, plug it in the cable, and they're done. There's still a lot of people like that, but there's also a lot of people that are so excited they can't wait to get a house that they can make decisions like, where would be a better place to put the stove? How would I change this? They might even be taking walls down and stuff. And so anyhow, large appliances can be a big deal. Most appliances stay with the house. Sometimes you have kids, maybe you have a grandkid that can use a washer and dryer. It's worth more to him taking them than it would be selling with the house. That's something that we can help you with on some of those things. China. So China is a real challenge. Silver, antique furniture, gifts that people gave you. There's all kinds of emotion tied to that. Handmade items, christening gowns, prom dresses, coffee mugs. Why is coffee mugs on here? What? The biggest fight, why was it the biggest fight? This was.
Does anybody remember the coffee cup that
They're free.
And when my dad passed away, that was what the big fight was over. Everybody wanted his coffee cup. So the lawyer told me I had to tell him we're gonna sell everything and everybody will just get a check. Or you just have to sit here and talk it out, pick something, if somebody else pick something else. I could not believe it. It was a free coffee cup.
A free coffee cup. But it meant something. It meant something because they loved their dad. What else? What else are biggies that are just hard to figure out what to do with? A vintage train set, another idea. All right, so we'll have the state lady come up and talk to us soon. All right, next slide. I think we're about done. Okay, some homework. Now, Downsizers Club is something that we're developing where we can work with you on a monthly basis and get you appointments with different people, consults and discounts to help you through things, but also Downsizers Club, we're gonna do homework and we're gonna have handouts and things for you to work on if you're interested in doing those kind of things. Some of the homework you could be thinking about is, what am I keeping? Because if you're gonna make a downsizing move, really the only thing you need to worry about is what am I keeping? Because the other stuff can be dealt with. So we need to think about, what do I love? And then things that you suspect that you might need to or want to let go of, you could make a list of those things that are a struggle. Make a list, your own list. Husband makes his own list, wife makes her own list. What are the things that I'm going to have a hard time letting go of? And maybe rate each item 1 through 10. 1 is minimal struggle, 10 is a major struggle. And then why? What does it mean to me or others, and what feelings come to the surface? And if you're thinking about downsizing move, what are you going to miss most about your current house? Because that can help educate on what kind of decisions might be good ones to ponder and how gaps can be filled to make it better. Next slide. Okay. Nadine's video is queued up. I have 2 YouTube videos ready to go. You can escape that and find Nadine's story. Nadine is here. Luckily, Nadine's not shy. Nadine, do you mind standing? Nadine is so nice because she let us point cameras at her all day. And we created this video, and also she's going to be featured in the June 18th episode of Empowering Seniors. And then we're going to go on hiatus for 11 weeks, and then we have new episodes coming out. Once you get that running, Samantha and Donnette will have you come up. And we're going to introduce you to Samantha and Donnette. They're professional move managers that help people through all those decisions. And if you ladies will come up when you get a chance. Okay, and Nadine's moving stories, the other one. There we go. And after we introduce them and do a quick little Q&A with them, we're going to take a quick intermission. And then we're going to bring up the rest of our panel. And we'll have plenty of time for questions. Okay, and if you can play that and also make it a big screen. Katherine Ambrose, the founder of Empower Senior. We educate, equip, and empower seniors to make great decisions. One of our key focuses is to help seniors make safe, well-planned transitional moves. Join us for Nadine's moving story. Come with me to see how our team operates to help seniors have a smooth transition into their new living environment. Today, we have prepared ahead of time to move Nadine. Today is loading day. So our team is packed for her. They've worked a couple of weeks with her personally on making decisions on everything in the home. And today we're loading up. We're going to move her out of her darling Riverside home. And she's made a decision to move into Twin Lakes Apartments. We're going to document that for you today. So come on inside. So this is not ad. What we want are your ahas. If you can relate to anything that you hear in this story.
moving on we work with. Well, my husband died, 10 years ago, and so I was still making decisions, right away, which I didn't want to. But I went on for 8 years thinking, well, what should I do something? And the maintenance got so bad in the house, the worrisome of everything, and the house getting older, me getting older. And I wasn't able to do a lot of this stuff, running hoses around, this kind of thing.
So we met Nadine originally a few years ago. She had come to our seminars up in Tampa, invited by a neighbor. And I think it was just a long process for her in particular because she was out of state for quite some time with her daughter. So she kind of got stuck there out of state because of everything going on with traveling and things like that. And we talked over the process with her. We even actually met her and come to do some work at the house, but she just wasn't quite ready. And then when she made the decision to move, she made the decision quickly. I mean, it was a long time getting there, that thought process. But then when she was ready right now. We got the phone call and she wanted to start immediately.
Move day is the culmination of all the things we've done in the last couple of weeks, getting our clients ready to move. And so we have a couple last minute things that we do first thing when Samantha and I get here. Usually we'll order the TV, we'll pack up the groceries in the refrigerator and strip the beds and try to keep that stuff in our own cars so that we have access to that right away.
Going through her things and helping her get things out of doors and drawers and closets and attics and spaces that you don't really pay attention to when you live somewhere. So Nadine's been here for 30 years, and there's just a lot of things that you don't always look at when you've been somewhere, especially for that length of time. So we were in all of the spaces and all of the corners and nooks and crannies, and kind of brought everything, up from the basement, down from the attics, down from the cabinets that you generally can't reach. You don't know what's up there. So we did those kinds of things over the last few weeks and made sure Nadine had the opportunity to look at everything that she, had over the years and make decisions about what she wanted to take.
What do you think it would have been like if your daughter from California came here to help you versus?
No, I thought about it because she was going to come help me. And it didn't work out. And I said, don't worry, and then over the phone, when I'm in California, I find out about you all. And so that helped make the decision and helped make her feel better that she couldn't come. Because her and I couldn't even done it. We couldn't have done it. Just her and me. We couldn't have done it. There's just too many little things like cost TV and how much time each thing takes.
There was just a lot of big furniture here. So we got rid of some of that prior to kind of the process starting because Nadine had already made decisions about what she didn't want as far as some of the stuff was concerned already. So I listed some furniture, we had people come pick up. It was just nice to open up the space a little bit.
Well, for one thing, they wanted me to stay safe. They kept saying, no, don't you move that, I'll move with you. You're not to pick anything up, we don't want you to hurt yourself. And I was quite impressed with all that. And I felt like I was in the way at the time.
On move day, we asked our clients and our seniors and our friends, they become our friends over the course of the weeks and months that we work with them. But we asked that they maybe go to breakfast or go to lunch or go to a family member's house. They're more than welcome to be here on move day, but it was crowded. There's a lot of activity going on. And as the movers kind of get the furniture out of the house, there's nowhere to sit and be, so we don't want them just standing around. And there have been times we have taken them out to lunch or something like that so that we can kind of get them out of the house and get them out of the chaos. Because there's just a lot of hustle and bustle and activity that goes on during this day.
And the movies, they were delightful. They were they were awesome. They really are. And how they move big stuff and how they wrap it and pack it, I was so impressed.
Our philosophy here at Two Man Truck is to treat everything like it's grandma's. Never treat it like it's yours. If you treat it like it's yours, you can always replace it. Treat it like your parents will actually back. You treat it like grandma's. I don't know about many people, but my grandma, sure. And grandma, yeah. So I always go above and beyond just to treat everything like it's grandma's. Each and every one like.
I came in one time at the house and looked at my recliner and said, oh my God, what'd you do with the back? Did it break? I thought they would. He said, oh, you always take the back off. I said, oh, I didn't know that. He said, they showed me it comes off real easy, you just go right back down. Okay, you don't know the truth.
Communication, how to talk to customers, how to make them just be at peace with the move, because I know moving is a headache in itself and it can be frustrating. It can definitely be hard on them because on anyone change is going to be hard.
Just pretty much doing reviews, calling in, and people that are referred to us and stuff like that. Like, we'll always ask customers, hey, would you refer us to friends and family? And normally the answer is yes. Well, we've always got a yes, regardless of what the type of move was. So I mean, it's just all about being blessed and moving forward.
It's really pretty simple once you just start talking about it. Most people are pretty good about, realizing, well, we are doing a downsize, and so obviously it's not all gonna fit. Some of the things that have been suggested is like the pictures and memorabilia, for instance. If somebody hasn't already spent some time going through that and it's just piled up and stored, now is not necessarily the best time to do that. So we might suggest they go ahead and pack it and put it in a closet or storage, and then do that once they do. One thing that's gonna happen is they're gonna free up time and energy just to, and have time to go through those things. And then another thing is their family can join them in those kind of things in their new place.
What's the benefit to you to stay in Wichita as opposed to moving out of state?
Well, the benefits of why I stayed, because of the people I know and my church and just friends, because I've been here most of my life. I've moved around, but I've always come back here. It's always been my home. My kids went to school here, and, so you get to know a lot of people.
What does your daughter think about you staying here?
I'm not real sure. She wanted me out there so bad, and I wanted to go out so bad, but but she's so happy with you all because of what you've done for me, and she didn't have to worry about me, I gotta tell you, one night, after I got back from California, and we were just starting to get ready to do stuff, Donna said, hey, you haven't been in the store. And I said, well, no, but we jumped in the car, we were in the store. So she took me to the store, and I couldn't believe it. And she helped me do some shopping, which was very little. I didn't want to do a lot, but I just couldn't believe that. No, but if you have any doubt, all you have to do is call and talk to them about it, and they'll tell you all about it.
Your energy goes into 3 different places, and one is space, one is management, and one is just stress, and space is one of the things that I work with the space planning. You don't have to worry about taking things that aren't going to fit and then deciding what to do with them when you get over there.
I think the decision of where she was going to move was really weighing on her and how she was going to get to that point. But then after she made that decision, it was really, really helpful for her to, just call, and we took care of everything from there. And, it was like a big relief to her. That part was done, and then she could just kind of sit back and enjoy the rest of her time in her house.
We work to ensure that every aspect of a senior move is well planned and affordable. We manage every detail from beginning to end. If you'd like more information on a senior move or any of the programs that we offer, please reach out to me directly. I'm Katherine Ambrose, and my number is 686-4500. Thank you for joining us on Nadine's Moving Story. Okay,
Samantha, you got next. Come on up. And Ben, is he on here?
oh, there is. Ben, come on up here. So this is Ben Lappin. He did all the filming and editing, and he's here today. He's been to several of our seminars. So Ben, we want to thank you and recognize you for doing such great work so that people can better understand and learn from other stories. And most of all, Nadine, we want to thank you for helping other people. And we plan to do a lot of these moving stories. And I think we'll learn something from every single one of them. The whole time that we were talking to Nadine about moving, we thought we were going to help her move to California. And one day she called and said, I'm moving to Twin Lakes. And I said, you're what? So, and that's why we decided to do the story too, because it just was so perfect going from the Riverside house to Twin Lakes, and it just makes a great story. And also there's, you see how there's so many decisions that get made, like she was going to go to California and wanted to, but there's things there that weren't making that maybe the best. And it could be maybe something changes later. But for right now, staying in Wichita felt like a good choice. And so anyway, thank you very much. Okay, so if we could go back to the slides, go to the intermission slide, but Donna and Samantha, if you two can have a seat here real quick and just pass the mic back and forth, maybe share a word. And if you have questions for them, it'd be a good time to ask some questions.
Hi, everybody. So one thing that this helps me remember and want to send out to you guys is it is important when you are thinking of the move. A lot of seniors end up going to like Arizona because, you know, of the weather, for whatever reason. But if you don't have people there, you know, it's a good idea to go somewhere where you have loved ones or have friends. And so what Nadine, her move, staying here in Wichita, she has a lot of friends here. And it would have been really hard to leave all those friends. And so just think about that. To relocate somewhere where you don't know anybody is may not be the best idea. But yeah. So I love doing this. My favorite part is the actual moving and helping a senior person with their sorting and getting it packed and getting them from one place to another. The business part of it, yeah, you guys do that. But anyway, I just love doing it. I can't believe how lucky I was to fall into doing this. You know, it's very worthwhile. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Samantha. Those are our faces you saw up there, unfortunately, but this is just a part of what we do. I do want to say thank you to Min, because as he was filming stuff like that, he got a lot more footage and then ended up editing things. But he was literally jumping out of the way of the movers running back and forth and us moving around, and it was just nice to have someone there that was cognizant of that and knowing that move day is a very, very fast-paced day. So you know, you kind of see what we do, but in all seriousness, the psychology behind it is we hold on to things for multiple reasons. You know, sometimes it's a matter of our friends or family, our kids or grandkids have given us these things and we feel guilty letting them go. I think that most people do have some form of guilt when they decide to let some things go. And I will tell you on the opposite side of that, as a gift giver, your kids and grandkids, friends, family, whoever gave you these tangible items, they're not giving them to you to make you feel guilty, to make you keep them forever, and wanting you to necessarily keep them forever. I'm not saying that doesn't happen, because sometimes it does, but overall, people don't want you
weighed down with that burden. So just keep that in mind as you start going through this process. You know, there's a lot of things you accumulate over your life, and those people that gave you those things, they don't want those things holding you back. So what we come in and help you do is make the decisions that are best for you. These are your decisions to make. We're just trying to help you stay on track and really take care of the physical part of things for you, because it's a lot of stress. You're going to go through a lot of emotions, and it's great to have maybe your daughter or a grandkid or niece or nephew or something like that. They are helping as well if that's what you choose to do. But we find that you and your friends and family are emotionally attached to your things. We're not. You know, we get to come in and see things from a different perspective. We love the people we work with, but we don't necessarily love all your stuff. So it's nice that we get to see it, you know, and talk you through those things a little bit differently than maybe what a daughter or, you know, somebody like that would. So just keep that in mind. And the fact of the matter is, at some point, somebody is going to have to deal with these things. Might not be you, might not be your kids, you never know. But I would imagine some of you have some things in your house that you have acquired over the years, maybe from an aunt and uncle that have passed away, or parents that have passed away, and you have to deal with those things now, unfortunately. And if you don't, somebody will. So we always try to encourage people to deal with those things sooner rather than later, while you can still make those decisions. Because if you get to a point that you can't, then that's when somebody else comes in and does it for you. And I don't know anyone personally that wants those decisions made for them. If you want control of your life and your decisions and your things in your house, then it's good to start thinking about those things. Even if you're not going to do it right away, it's good to have that in the back of your mind to really kind of prepare yourself and mentally get there before you maybe make a phone call to someone to come help. So just keep it in the back of your mind, because it's a lot of stress and it's a lot to deal with. Now, when you do make those decisions and you make that phone call, hopefully to us, you know, it does take quite a burden off. So thank you to Nadine. She said it very, very well in the video. You know, she didn't have to worry about all of those things. She called us, and her daughter, who would normally worry about her, you know, miles and miles and miles and miles away, didn't have to think about all of what her mom was going through and all of her stuff. We were able to help her through that process. So we appreciate each and every client that we've had, and each and every one of you being here just to start thinking about these things. So if you need us, give us a call.
The first call I made was to the team when I found out my mom was moving. Donna said, well, I'm not going to Chicago, although she has helped people in other states several times. But she said, maybe you should have Samantha. And Samantha said, yes.
I said, I'll leave my kids at home for a week. See ya.
Because we can look for senior mood manager there, but it just wouldn't be as easy. You don't know how they would be. And, you know, all along I've been able to say, Mom, don't worry about that. Samantha's coming. And so my mom's very excited that Samantha's coming. And I've been amazed at what my mom's accomplished during this time. So hopefully it's going to be that much easier for Samantha to get it done. But she knows how to instruct the movers. So we hire movers. We help you interview and decide who you want to use, but they follow our senior protocol. Normally we do the packing because they're really good packers. Moving companies, they are all about speed. We sat down to lunch one time and they told us about how to pack, and it is hilarious. It is all about how fast can they grab stuff and filling up boxes. And that's why if you've had this kind of moves before, who knows where stuff is. Well, these ladies plan everything with the unpacking. So big instruction from my mom is don't pack your kitchen or your bathroom, because we want it to be easier for Donna and Samantha to help you unpack that. And so she's really listened to that. And I think that video helped me, Nadine, that she was able to watch your video. And that was a good introduction to them. So anyway, so they know how to supervise the movers, and you get a huge discount on your moving because they've negotiated it that way, and the packing is done, and the movers can see that everything is in order and being supervised. And we make sure that we have really good individual movers that come, like the two guys that were on that video were excellent, and they've worked with them many times. And so we help manage all the details. Maybe you mentioned Cox. They help with all the different things. So I was just telling my mom on the way here, just tell Samantha everything you're worried about, she'll take care of it. If they'll hear just something that someone says, and then the client might not even realize that's something they can do, they just figure it out. One time we had somebody that had all these oil lamps. They said, well, I guess I'm gonna have to store that till my daughter can come in here from out of state to get them. And they said, well, we'll just have them ship them. Done. So the goal is to not leave people with work to do after, and hopefully no storage units to pay for after. And the burden of knowing that, oh my gosh, I still have to clean out that storage unit. So that's our goal. So we're going to take a quick bio break, a quick 3 to 5 minute break, because we have a lot more to cover. We're going to hear from a trust officer and an estate sale person and do Q&A. So if you want to stretch a little bit, and we'll get started in just a few minutes. Yeah. Okay, let's hit play. This is George Carlin. Now remember, George Carlin was a little, what's the good word? Risque, raw in his language, but we're all mature adults here. So if you hear something you don't like, talk to Carlin someday. Okay, kids, let's go ahead and play it. So Samantha's kids are back here running the show. They're actually awesome. They help us out quite a bit.
I would have been down here a little bit sooner, but they gave me a wrong dressing room, and I couldn't find any place to put my stuff. And I don't know how you are, but I need a place to put my stuff. So that's what I've been doing out there, just trying to find a place for my stuff. You know what it is. That's the whole meaning of life, isn't it? Trying to find a place for your stuff. That's all your house is. Your house is just a place for your stuff. If you didn't have so much goddamn stuff, you wouldn't need a house. You should walk around all the time. That's all your house is a pile of stuff with a cover up. You see that when you take off an airplane, you look down and you see everybody's got a little pile of stuff. Everybody's got their own pile of stuff. And when you leave your stuff, you gotta lock it up. You want somebody to come by and take some of your stuff. They don't like the good stuff. They don't bother with that crap you're saving. Ain't nobody interested in your 4th grade arithmetic papers. They're looking for the good stuff. That's all your house is. It's a place to keep your stuff while you go out and get more stuff. Now, sometimes you gotta move. You gotta get a bigger house. Why? Too much stuff. You gotta move all your stuff. And maybe put some of your stuff in storage. Now imagine that there's a whole industry based on keeping an eye on your stuff.
Thanks, guys. I loved that way back then. Who knew I'd be dealing with stuff later? So everyone, I'd like to introduce you to Nicole Easton. She's introducing us to a whole new world related to trust. I want to let you explain what you do. She's a CPA, and she now works for the trust company of campus. Thank you, Katherine, and thank you for having me. It's really an honor to be here and be part of this today, and I'm glad to get to speak to you more about what I do. Everyone here? Good? Okay, so that is a really funny skit. I would encourage you, if you're a YouTube user, to look it up and watch the rest of it. And of course, it's cute and funny and
George Carlin is making fun of what to do with all of our stuff in a way that only George Carlin can. But we all know that a house or a home is much more than just a place for stuff or a pile of our stuff with a lid on it, as he said. And I'm curious by show of hands, how many of you still live in a home that you lived in when you got married? A couple of you. And how many of you live in the homes where you raised your babies? A few more hands going up. So we know that, yes, physically moving is a challenge, especially as we age, but also the mental and emotional aspects, as Katherine has done such a fantastic job of highlighting for us here today. And so, as she mentioned, my name is Nicole. I am a CPA by trade, but after doing financial statement audits for several years, I decided I just wanted more out of my career, and specifically I wanted the opportunity to directly help people every day, which is what I do now at the Trust Company of Kansas. My job and my responsibility is to help people make sure that people like you get what you want with your assets, your money, the things that you've worked so hard for your whole life. And I heard it said that the two most important things in life to people are their family and their money. And so every day I get to help people with one of the most important things in their life. It's a big responsibility. I take it very seriously. And we can go to the next slide. I saw his skid. Yes, next. Okay, so we've heard it said that you can't take it with you, but I'm pretty sure this person must have died trying. All right, so you may be wondering what I mean when I say my role at TCK is to help you get what you want. And what I'm referring to is probate, and we can go to the next slide. How many of you know what probate is or have an experience with it? Lots of you.
The attorney does.
Raise your hand if that was a pleasant experience. One hand, okay, that's good. That means the person must have done their estate planning. So I'm gonna just read you this definition, and then I'll tell you what my interpretation of it is, and the attorney will appreciate this. Probate is the judicial process whereby a will is proved in a court of law and accepted as a valid public document that is the true last testament of the deceased, or whereby the estate is settled according to the laws of intestacy in the state of residence of the deceased at the time of death in the absence of a legal will. My interpretation of that is, if you don't have a will at the time of your passing, the government will decide who gets your stuff for you. Now, I don't care if you're Republican, Democrat, Independent, what have you. I think we can all agree that we don't want the government deciding who gets our stuff, right? Raise your hand if you want to be the one who decides what happens to your stuff. Amen. Okay, we're all on the same page here. So let's talk about what we can do to ensure this happens. And the first thing you must do is have a valid legal will at the time of your passing that outlines what you want to happen to your stuff. I have some handouts on the front table as you leave that have my contact information on them. And you can grab that if you're interested. On the first page, there's a list of assets that pass by succession without having to be named in your will. It's a pretty substantial list. And when you look at that, really what is left at the end of the day that needs to be mentioned in your will, I'm talking about IRAs that have beneficiaries. If you have a trust that lists beneficiaries, those things don't need to be in your will, nor will they go through probate. But as Katherine has mentioned, you have to spend time thinking about who you want to get your stuff before you visit with an estate planning attorney who can help you draft your will. In Kansas, if you pass away with a will, also on the handout, there's a list of who gets your stuff if you die without a will. So if you have children but no spouse, your children will inherit everything. Spouse but no children, your spouse will inherit everything. But if you have
a spouse and descendants, your spouse and your descendants will inherit half of everything. Or your spouse will get half, your children will get half. Most people probably don't want that. I would say most people want their spouse to get everything before their children get it. But if you don't do your planning in advance, that is what will happen. That becomes problematic too when you have minor children. I don't think that that is probably something we're looking at in this room, but that is something to know for your loved ones, for your children. You may be asking, so what? That if I pass away and my husband or my wife and my children get half of everything, that's what I wanted. Well, probate can be a very arduous, difficult process. It can also be very expensive. And if you don't have a will, the probate court will appoint an executor for you who then becomes personally liable for all of your financial responsibilities. So the next thing I would recommend is that when you're doing your will, you name a corporate executor of your will. That's something at the Trust Company of Kansas we do. Even though the trust is in our name and I'm the trust officer, we also deal with wills and estates. And if you have a corporate executor, that person can take on the responsibility of executing your wishes. They also have expertise, knowledge, and experience in this area. A whole team of people who aren't going to find it to be a burden to figure out what to do with your stuff or make sure that your stuff, as you outlined in your will, gets where it's supposed to go. And they also have insurance to cover anything that could potentially go wrong, which is something that your sister or your spouse isn't going to have if you name them as your executor. And then the next thing I would recommend is that you get your assets titled correctly. If you look at the list on the handout up front, there's many things that won't go through probate, so it's really important to get the titling of those assets correct. And then the final thing I'll share with you today is to give your stuff away while you're living. So we already know we can't take it with us when we die. And my mom is actually back here in the room. She's going to speak to you later. You can wave now. That's my mom, Lori. She's an estate liquidation specialist. Her and my grandmother were in business together for years and years. And there's a beautiful diamond ring that is a family heirloom that my grandmother was going to wait to give to my mother until she passed away. But she decided to give it to my mom during her lifetime, which my mom will share with you later. Also, as Katherine mentioned, sometimes it's not practical to give our things away before we pass away. Another story that I have is from my grandmother. You mentioned that sometimes people say, no, I don't want those things. And my grandmother did ask me if I wanted her mother's furniture when she passed away. It's not my style. And I said no. And then to your point over there earlier, she actually asked me one time, why don't you want any of my stuff? And through tears, I told her, it's not that I don't want your stuff, it's that I just don't want to lose you. So I really understand that a lot. In the end, we did keep my grandmother's furniture. I now have an entire room dedicated to that furniture. And actually, I said it was my grandmother's, but it was actually my mom's grandmother. So it's been in our family for a long, long time. But my grandmother did sleep on that furniture, so it wasn't practical for her to give it away to me while she was living. And so we can go to the next slide and I'll wrap up here. If you are adamant that you don't want to give any of your items away until you pass or certain of your items, or you can't, then I would highly recommend rightsizing, as of course we've talked about here today. Of course, that's downsizing, but in a way that makes sense for you and your family's needs. And this would apply even if you are willing to execute a will, give items away during your lifetime, and downsize for any of your personal belongings that you would like to keep until you pass. It's important that you make a list of specific bequests that you would like for certain people in your family to get. So you can have the peace of knowing that your father's gun made it into the hands of your grandson. The diamond ring went to the daughter, the furniture went to the granddaughter, and what have you. And all of these tasks that I've highlighted today will be part of Downsizers Club, and companies like the Trust Company of Kansas and people like myself will be glad to help you figure out those next steps. So happy to answer any questions, and I'll turn it over to you.
So just stay seated because we'll do a Q&A. Come set your computer up while Dee does hers. And so next slide. I'm sorry we're running over, and we understand if you've got a schedule and have to leave, but we do have some good information, so we'll just keep going for just a few more minutes. Okay, so this is Dee Haskins with Busy Bee Bookkeeping. She and Nicole are helping me get the nonprofit going, so thank you ladies very much for all of that. Busy Bee helps people with paperwork clutter.
When Katherine said we were going to talk about the psychology of letting go, I thought it's more about the psychology of the fear of letting go, right? Why do people have that? Well, there can be many reasons. One of the first questions I get when I'm on the phone with somebody setting up an appointment is, don't judge me, don't judge me, because they're so afraid that I'll come and see all their paper and not be able to help them and then judge them on what they do have. So be assured there is no judgment here. When I do see a large accumulation of paper, I go, oh goody, you know, because it is a wonderful challenge and I love challenges. So when the psychology of letting go, I have seen many fourth grade arithmetic papers and a lot of artwork from children's kindergarten classes. And I see a lot of that, so I won't judge you if you want to keep it. But I can also suggest other methods of getting rid of that and taking pictures and put it on a flash drive for that child if you want to, or just putting it in a box for that child and letting them take care of it. Out of my 3 sons, I had 3 boxes, had all of their paraphernalia in it, and when they became adults, I just gave it to them and then they could get rid of it if they wanted to. But I didn't have to deal with it. I also wanted to mention that a tornado that I was in 1991, which was that Andover tornado, if you remember it, it did me a great favor. I was a keeper of things. I was a keeper of clothes, all those stupid little clothes my children wore, or you know, the dolls that I used to have, or the paperwork. Oh, my children just wrote such wonderful things when they were in 1st grade. You know, so I've kept all of those things, but the tornado allowed me to get rid of them, and I realized how unimportant that is. And I made a decision in my life that things don't matter, people matter. I'd much rather sit across the table from my son or my children and talk about the memories we had, as opposed to looking downstairs in that cupboard and trying to find that piece of paper that we made in kindergarten. It's much better to make memories in my mind, and the psychology of the keeping things goes away when you're sitting and talking about the memories you made with your children. So that's my little thing on, do we want to go to the next slides? Do I have time?
Yeah, come on up here. Okay, kids, we're going to go through those next slides just real quick. Okay.
What I do to help people create order with their paperwork is we create a command center. And in that command center is where you have all your tools, your pencils, papers, stamps, and things like that. And we surround that command center with the things that you need to create current, to take care of current paperwork, paying bills and all of that. And we have one file cabinet so that you can put all of those current things in that file cabinet. Okay. Then okay, so do I go to some?
Yeah, let me help you through. Okay, so when you hire the right people, they get excited. So you know what Samantha and Donnette like to do, what she likes to do, that she, just like Samantha and Donnette, she figures out what is good for you, like how your brain works. So she can do a file cabinet or 3-ring binders, and she just organizes things like you would not believe. This is a good thing to do in advance of downsizing. Because that part would be done. Because if you're downsizing, like my mom, like we don't have time to go through paper right now. She didn't have, she had boxes and boxes of paper. We would just bring it here because now it's like too late. And that is a project to work on later. So Dee helps people get organized ahead of time. Then she can help them over time be organized for taxes, tax preparation and all of that. And let's just run through the next couple slides so you can see. She's gonna help all go through all of these things, but she knows how long things have to be kept and why, and what needs to be thrown out versus kept because you keep too much stuff. And then she's known for her 42 essential estate planning documents, which she has in the back, and where your gaps are so that she can get you to the attorney that can help close the gaps, and she can help gather the stuff that you need for your attorney or for your trust. And then next one, and she helps ask you questions to go through all of these things to get that all figured out and get it filed appropriately. And next, all right, let me hand it back to her. This is how you feel when you have busy D help you, and then Alicia's got to come down too.
And she knows me. She knows me well. Okay, I don't want to keep this story.
Okay, well, thanks. Stay up here, Dee, because they're probably gonna have questions for you, so just come around to me. Okay, well.
Hi, thank you all for having me. Yes, my name is Lori Evanhack. I am an estate sales specialist, and I would like to share with you that, yes, I am the proud recipient of that beautiful diamond ring from my mother, and that moment means more to me than probably the ring does, because we got to share that. I can't begin to tell you how important that gift was, because for me and my mother, we laughed, we cried, we talked about the meaning of the ring, we talked about where it came from, and now every day I get to relive that moment when I look at that ring. And that's very special and something I will cherish for the rest of my life. And I know that when I pass it on to my daughter, that moment's going to be the same thing for her. And I will tell you that unfortunately, not everybody takes the opportunity to give their belongings away while they're alive. And the truth is that most of your kids do not want your stuff. They might enjoy hearing the stories. They like the history behind it, but they don't want it. They have their own lives. They built their own homes. They have their own belongings, and they have their own stuff. And they already don't know what to do with their own stuff, let alone know what to do with your stuff. So that's what I'm here to talk about with you today. I've been in this business for over 20 years, doing personal property liquidation, and whether you're moving, you're downsizing, you're decluttering, or doing it in total estate liquidation, getting professional assistance with your project leads to the art of work and decision making that comes along with the process of liquidation. My company, Estate Liquidation, has partnered with Katherine and the downsizing team to assist you in that process of downsizing and liquidating what you don't need. D is a great asset with that as well, because the paperwork is important. You have to know where your deeds are. You have to know where your will is. You have to know how to pay your bills. So if you're downsizing, organizing that paperwork is very important, and making sure that you keep the things that are important to you is also very important. I recall years ago an estate sale that my mother and I did, and this couple moved to Colorado from Oklahoma. They had a gift shop in Oklahoma for over 20 years. They took everything from their gift shop and from their home, and they moved it to Colorado. That stuff sat in their house for another 20 years until they were in their mid-70s, and they decided they wanted to get an RV and they wanted to travel. But they had this home full of stuff and didn't know what to do with it. Their kids didn't want it. Their kids still lived in Oklahoma. They weren't going to come get it. So they hired us to come in and to liquidate it for them. And we did just that. We went in, we liquidated that entire household. They had so much money from that stuff, they didn't know what to do with it, but buy gas and get in the RV and go. And I will tell you that one of the reasons I remember that sale is because their name was Essex, and Essex was a car. And they had a 1920s car, Essex, that they gave to their 15-year-old grandson. That young man was over the top with excitement, because he couldn't wait for Grandpa to teach him how to drive that car and to say, that's my car. And the grandparents were relieved, because they had a place for that car to go. They didn't have to worry about it anymore. They didn't have to store it. And it made both of them very happy, and it was a moment that they all got to share. But unfortunately, not everybody gets to do this. 9 out of 10 times, my job is performed because the owners of the personal property have passed. And all too often, I liquidate many family heirlooms and treasures. And what I hear from the children is, well, we don't know who that is in the pictures, and we don't know who that was. And so I encourage you, as you think about making this transition, when you get with your downsizing team, to make a list of those things that mean something to you, or give them away now. Make sure that you take that moment, because I think you will probably value the moment of sharing it more than you're going to value it when you're past and you don't get to see the expression on your children's or your grandchildren or your great grandchildren's faces, because you shared a piece of your history and your life with them that they get to take into the future with them. But most of all, what I find is that families are engulfed in grief and overwhelmed by the daunting task of cleaning out their with their parents' belongings.
So you just speak up. I think it might be. That's okay.
So, and that's fine. So by teaming up with a certified downsizing coach, you can relieve yourself of unnecessary and unwanted personal items that have become a burden or are just no longer needed. How many of you still cook every day in your house? There's a lot more hands that don't. Do you need all that stuff in your kitchen? You need it, do you host those family parties anymore? You don't. And what happens is it sits there and it just is there, So why not turn it into cash? Take that money, go buy something that you really want to use. Go buy yourself a vacation. Go buy yourself a lunch with your friend. You use that to do something to make your life more fulfilling now, because at the end, we don't sell sentimentality, unfortunately. What we sell is stuff. And the one picture of the young man standing there with his dad saying, oh, one day this is going to be your stuff. You can ask her. She'll shake your head and say, I don't want that. She'll be the first one to tell you. I've been fortunate enough that I've moved 4 times in the past year, and I know what downsizing means because I'm not moving that stuff anymore. So the best advice I can give you is that relieve yourself not only to declutter and downsize, but to relieve yourself of the burden of what am I going to do with all of this stuff, and more so to relieve your children of that burden, because they don't want to deal with it. They come in every time I see it, and they're like, Lori, there's so much stuff. What are we going to do with it? Well, you take out what you want, you take out what means something to you, and then I come in and I'll do the rest. So take the time, think about what's important to you now, and think about the things that you don't need. Partner with the Downsizing Club, partner with Katherine and her team, and then that way when I come in, I'm either doing it because you're ready to move and you want to use that cash for something else, or I'm going to come in and I'm going to meet with your children because that stuff is what's left over.
Okay,
So
great.
thank you so much.
Felicia, the attorney will have you come up here too. Please stay up here, please. So we're going to do some Q&A. Felicia has something to add. Sure, that'd be great. Thank you. So we have really good people that you can ask questions of. I will tell you, on estate sales, you're always going to make more money doing an estate sale than a garage sale. So some people might love to do garage sales, but I am never going to do another garage sale in my life. When we want to get rid of something, we give it to one of the estate sale companies. We just finished an estate sale Saturday, and our client made $25,000 on their stuff. And so there's big money attached to it. And we do mostly living estate sales where we're turning your stuff, your leftover stuff that nobody wants, we're turning it into money that other people do want. And they may charge 35%, give or take, but I'm telling you, it doesn't cost you a penny, because they'll make you so much more money than what you could sell it for on Facebook Marketplace or whatever, or doing a garage sale. I always tell people it doesn't cost you anything. They only make you money because they know how to get hundreds of people to their sales. because they've been building up clientele, and they have resources of people that come buy stuff. So, yes.
When you say estate sale, people say, well, if somebody died. Is that the case, or can you just come in and say, we're gonna live in the same house? But we have a lot of stuff, you know, we want to kind of filter through it and maybe get rid of some stuff.
Yeah, so you can't really live in your house and do an estate sale at your house, and Laura maybe can tell me if I'm wrong. But most estate sale companies, they do not want you there when they do an estate sale. But what you can do is give Lori your stuff, and she will take it to another one of our clients' houses that is a good match for yours, and it's done on consignment. Who have we helped with estate sales in here so far? Yep, I bought your waffle maker thingy. I'm excited about it. So it's very dangerous to go to sales because they make everything look so good. If you take your money with you, you're gonna buy something. So it's a big trap to end up with more stuff. But you can sell it on consignment. So we mix together 2 or 3 families a lot of times. Hers is estate connections. You can just call our main number. It's on every piece of paper that we ever give you, 666-4500, and we'll help you figure out the people that you need to talk to. And so a big part of my job is coordinating your living estate sale. Because if you just call an estate sale person, what are they gonna do? They're gonna look at their schedule and they're gonna tell you, I'm booked till fall. Well, fall doesn't work for me, and it doesn't work for you if your lease started June 1st. You know what I mean? And so I work as a hub to make sure that we are figuring out how to make things happen on your time frame so that your house, if you own a home, so your house, which is probably your largest asset of what you're dealing with in a downsize move, that your house is protected and that we're getting the highest reward the market will bring. And Felicia, what?
Yeah, there's a couple things I just want to clarify. I know that you said that when the laws of intestacy, which means following the bloodline, when a parent dies without a will, that it goes to their husband first, is the first line. If you didn't have a husband, then it goes to your children in equal shares. The problem is what we were saying, it doesn't directly go to husband, half to spouse, half to children. That only occurs when you have a blended family and the father did not adopt the children, or they are not the father's biological children, are the left widow. So that only happens when it goes to children and spouse, when there is a break between that bloodline. So normally, if the spouse would die, it would go to that spouse directly.
I have a question on the probate / will.
Sure.
We have a will. It was put together by an attorney. It's, I hope, pretty ironclad. When we pass away and our children do not contest the will, do we need an attorney? Will they need to deal with an attorney, or can they just take the will and abide by that?
It depends.
What happens after?
Sure. So when you name someone as an executor, whether it's a corporate executor like Trust of Colorado, or someone in your family, it does, the will, okay, your daughter is not an executor until the court recognizes her as an executor. So even though she's listed in your will, she has no power. And under the state of Kansas, she can act until that court says, I recognize you as this person, and now you have the power. She's then issued letters testamentary. So if you have a will, it's called letters testamentary. If you don't have a will, they're an administrator, and they get awarded letters of administration. They have to notify, if you had other children, she would hire an attorney, they would petition the court for your daughter, and all your other children would get notice. If one of those children does not agree with who you chose, they can contest that will. If your daughter has issues that maybe you weren't aware of at the time that you drafted the will, that now she's incapable because of health reasons or something else, she might want not to accept that nomination. And then someone else would step in her place, or the court would appoint someone to do so.
So is there any way you can avoid having to bring in an attorney?
Good
So,
question.
yes, there is. So what I would normally tell my clients when you come is that, yes, draft a will. That is your safety net. So if you have things that you own solely in your name, Those things are considered part of your probate estate. If you have not given them to someone else at your passing, I don't want you to give them to them at your death. So if you have a house, I don't want you to, I would recommend that you don't give it to your child now in life, because that creates tax liabilities for your child. It creates, if your child was sued, they're going after that home, which you may still live in. It may create tax issues for you. So I would not tell you to give property to children while they're alive, you're alive. But at your death, you could do what's called a beneficiary designation or payable on death in bank accounts, and you assign that to someone else at your death. It has somewhere for it to go. The reason people have probate estate and they need me, I'm a probate specialist, that's what I specialize in, is because they have property that's held solely in their name at the time of their death. And the state doesn't know where it needs to go. Yes, you may have only one child, but the state doesn't know who your child is. And maybe you have a child that doesn't gonna play nice with the other two. So we're gonna need someone to navigate those waters for you. But if you have a payable on death designation or beneficiary designation, you can do that. There are some things that unfortunately you are not gonna be able to prepare for. You're gonna get a check from homeowners insurance, car insurance, things that you paid that they're not gonna know when you're gonna die. So you're gonna get a check after your death that says to the estate of your name. Your children are not going to be able to negotiate those checks at a bank unless they have powers either given by the court, or we use an alternative means, which they'll need me to help them with, drafting a petition to go around that, to circumvent it. But that would be something that if someone was to pass in your family, your first line of defense is to call an attorney for at least to figure out if they need to do something. If they don't have to use your will and probate it, and they can avoid that, I can help them do that. But there's also legal ramifications if that child has the will and doesn't provide it to the court within 6 months. The other beneficiaries that were named in that will, if you had 3 children and child A has the will, doesn't tell child B or C about it, and it doesn't get before the court, those 2 children that didn't have the will at the time of your death can then sue child A. So
I'm sorry.
yes, it can be avoided is a short answer, but you're gonna need someone to advise your kids at the time of passing for them to know what their rights are, because they're not going to know. There are lots of things that they won't know, unfortunately.
So getting everything reviewed is
Yeah.
a really good idea, and you've got to keep things updated. And you're not doing your daughter or your son any favors by
Exactly.
making them the executor.
It is also less expensive on the front end. My services, if it's a foundational plan, we charge $900 for a will, all and ancillary documents included, drafting the transfer of the house to your kids, things like that, powers of attorneys, those are all included in that one fee. It is less expensive on the front end for a foundational plan than the $5,000 that I currently charge when you go into probate, $6,000 if you have a house that needs to be sold. That's what my fees are right now, current rate, and my fees are flat rate. Other attorneys charge at an hourly rate. My hourly rate is $200. So if you can save that on the front end, it's a cost now, but it saves your children in the long run, because they're so much more expensive. You won't have to do. I'm also happy to do a free half-hour consultation looking at your estate plans and saying, maybe this is a hole you need to look at. You don't have to hire me, but there might be a hole that you want to be prepared about.
And so my mom will be seeing her when she comes in. She's got her stuff. And she said, you're gonna need to know about this. And I said, we'll take care of that when you get your meeting. She's gonna have a free consult, because I don't mess with stuff that's not my field. So we're really good about do what you do best and refer the rest. Do you want to do the paperwork clutter? No. Busy D does. Okay, so everybody has their specialty. And Nicole, go ahead.
I just want to add quickly to say that the best way to avoid probate is to create a trust. So.
Well, the only thing with that, I'm going to interject again with Nicole. Yes, we do trust as well. A trust will protect you. However, there is a caveat. If you don't fund your trust properly, meaning putting everything titled into the name of the trust, it is outside of your trust. You then will need probate. So while a trust will protect you, it keeps privacy, it does all these things, there's some homework that you're going to have to do. If you have a trust and you have questions again, you can call me and I'll tell you, these are the things that you need to put in if you haven't done it. Law over time changes.
If you have a trust, and we're new to that, is there a possibility of having some things outside the trust already established, like an IRA or a 401k? You already
Those-
have a beneficiary established through that. Just leave that outside.
Yes. Some of those things I would tell you not to put in your trust. And because of the law, it would require that you not do so. So yeah, anything that has a beneficiary designation, that is not considered your probate asset. Nicole would agree with me on that. Those are things that aren't included in your trust. Those are things that you have done the front end work and made sure that those are going to your children. And so long as that's, you've complied with the contractual obligations to say Bank of Omaha or whoever has your life insurance, you filled out that paperwork right, your children are gonna get it. They're not gonna ever need me. They're gonna pick up a phone and say, my parents have passed, here are their death certificates, and they'll cut them a check. They will never need me to do those things. Those are outside of trust.
I have another question. If a spouse passes away, leaving a spouse, and what you just spoke about, probate and all of this, does the spouse have to go through all of this?
It's not generally needed. If you have a will, he would likely want to lodge that will. Again, that 6-month trigger that the law says you need to put a will to lodge. That's a small little project that, I mean, our office charges, $150, $200 to do. So that's fairly small. Most everything, when one spouse dies, is held jointly in the name of the other spouse. So it just passes without me. It's a right of survivorship. So they don't need an attorney generally. It's only when sometimes there's a blended family and the spouse, when she dies, wanted something to go to her children, but they weren't his children. And then we would maybe need to navigate those waters because there could be conflict between her children and now the living spouse. That's sometimes an issue.
And it always pays to just call and ask them questions just to be sure, because you're probably always going to find something extremely beneficial to making these phone calls. And if you don't know who was at that one seminar, blah, 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 just call our main number because we know, and we're also putting more and more information on our website. We can take a few more questions, but first of all, I just want to say we have Prairie Patio Homes. We still have seats available. We're going next week. You'll come here about 9:30 in the morning. We're getting on the bus at 10. This is going to be a very active day, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. We'll probably have you here early, 3 p.m. But we're gonna have 5 hours of driving around the city and looking at patio homes, really just for fun. So you can see what they're like. We're gonna see a variety of price ranges. We're just gonna educate you on the type of properties for purchase, but I'm also gonna be talking about some of the properties for rent, like my mom is moving into as we go. So it's gonna be a really educational field trip. We are going to feed you. Brian Spear with Kansas Home Health and Hospice and I are going to work on that together to make sure that you are eating through the day and having water and all that. So we're going to take care of you. We have a medical company involved. Next Thursday, June 17th. We do need you to RSVP by contacting me or letting Donnette, Dee, or I know today, so that if we have any changes or questions or anything that we can reach you, and so we don't sign up more people than what we have room for the bus. Right now we have plenty of room. It's going to be a beautiful luxury bus from Village Travel, and it'll be a fun day. And you can bring your friends or your kids with you too. So if you have time to do that, and you feel like getting on and off the bus and looking at some gorgeous homes together as a group, it'll be a good time, I think. And Brandon, can you advance the next slide? It's just reminding you what next month is. So.
They left. Everybody left. Everybody left.
Now poor Randy has to work the computer. So you guys were phenomenal. Thank you so much. See how it makes sense to do these seminars, and every single month you'll learn something. We have different topics every month. We have different professionals every month to educate you. So thank you very much for being here. They're going to be here to tell me if you can put a photo of our channel. Dee, let's see it in here real quick. You and I. Ouch. In here. Thank you. Thanks so much. Have a fantastic day. Well, that was a bonus then. Yeah.
Thank you for saying what you said.
No, it's true. It really is tough for me to talk about it with my parents. They talk about, you're not really people. I'm 30 years old. Are you the one on the flyer? No. Oh, that's D. D is recommending over here.
So you guys are complimentary.
Because I have a lot.
I can, sure.
So there is a place that I can tell you that I take stuff and they charge $5 for a bag, like a trash bag.
Is that a big
shredding. Not the big plastic. So like a paper bag, yeah. So like a Dylan's grocery bag, stuff it. They don't care how much it weighs, stuff it. And it's $5, and that's Wichita shredding. Wichita shredding. It used to be the one, the guy, oh, for crying out loud. We had them here, but it's called Wichita shredding.
Because I took it to document resource. I took a whole bunch of stuff there and, paid the money. And then my stuff was compromised.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so I won't ever use it again. I mean, both my credit cards were compromised. And so I said, okay, so I'm kind of.
Okay. Yeah, they do, but usually it's on a designated day, and you need to know, they might post it, God knows where they'll post it. Or call your bank and ask them when they have a shredding day, that's another way, and they usually do it for free.
So if I just call Wichita Shredding and say, hey, here you do this.
Yeah. So, and what they do is they'll take your stuff and they'll put it in a dumpster. And it's not like taking it to Home Depot and they lock it up, but Home Depot charges you a lot more to do it. So, but they'll take, like I've taken a file box, actually the file size box, and it's a $5 free box. So, these guys are really great. It has changed ownership, so the last time.
Yes. Hi, Steve. Nice to meet No, just right now, mom and dad are still alive. Right.
So I'd really like to get that off the past. Are you thinking,
So, does mom still have capacity to make this?
yes, but that's starting to age 83 years of age.
So mom is the only one who can do it. What you can do is at the point, so here's the thing. There's, I don't know what's happening in your family dynamics, but what I can tell you is that if at some point you become the executive, you position the board to appoint yourself, then that's what you would do. You would come to the board and say, I need to. If you may not need to based upon mom's passes at the end of life. You may be able to avoid full probate. I don't know. So in Kansas, if you have under $40,000, you can do what's called the small estate application, which means that you just say we're the legal heirs to this decedent. we should share in equal parts. The problem with that is generally is that you also accept the liability for credit or debts.
It's the first thing as it stands.
Oh.
Here's the, I don't care. I don't. That's not. I don't.
Is there a middle term?
There is.
But that shall be known. So a Virginia person could administer the state or be the executive of the state within the state of Kansas. He would just appoint, in our firm, what we do is there's a small document, an oath that we take that says that we'll be his appointed person, point person. So they'll come to us. He still does all the things that mom wants him to do. You still do all the things that mom wants him to do. I guess if your concern is that sister will sue you, is that what you're thinking? As far as what, or will override?
I'm not
Yeah.
legal confrontation.
So there's not a
That's just not something that I, because it's not that. I don't, personally, I don't care.
So the way that it works is you can denounce your role as executive and someone else will step in your place. So this middle child could step in your place. Your other sister, the one that you're having problems with, she could also do the same thing. If you don't choose to do that. But you could always contest it. I mean, you could fight with one another. The thing is, you could have, if sometimes what the court does is when there's that much conflict, a third party person is appointed. We have court appointed persons. They call it, I think, a trust and corporate executor. We just call them third party administrators. So it's someone that's all they do. That's their job. And for a rate, they go in and they administer. It's very quick and easy. They're never invited to Thanksgiving dinner. They don't care if they're invited to Thanksgiving dinner. They handle